in every bottle.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Chuck, what do you got there?
I can't find it.
All right, here we go. The skinny little setup.
Hey, everybody, welcome. We are live from all over the planet.
I know. It's pretty cool, huh?
It's really cool. So thanks for everybody for joining us today. The three of us could not be together for this show, so we decided to come together in the manner that you see and talk about some of the adventures that have been going on for the last few weeks. I haven't seen these guys in over 2 weeks or about 2 weeks. And I know that lots of things have been happening. I know Chuck just flew to Japan and back and just got certified on the 777 airplane. I can't wait to hear all those details. I know, Ken, you've been doing some fun stuff at the winery. You've got an opportunity to spend some time with Stoneface a couple of weeks ago, which would be a great time to talk about that. And then you spent some time with the winemaker from Bluette in Maine last week. So I can't wait to hear about that. And I'm off on a grand tour of the South, and I'll share some of my experiences at wineries and breweries and other things south of New Hampshire as we go. But if you're just joining us, please like our broadcast. If you hit the bell on the Facebook window, you can subscribe to our Facebook channel. Yeah, there's right somewhere. No, yeah. So somewhere below us on YouTube is a subscribe button. If you subscribe to us, you'll get notifications whenever we go live, and we'd love to have you. And share our broadcast with your friends and family if you know some people who you think would like to hear what we have to say or hear our story. And if you're joining us today, as always, if you have questions, please drop your questions into the comment section, and we will answer them as best we can. I believe Merike will be joining us, and she can help answer questions as well. And if I see them, I will answer them live with you today or ask them of Chuck and Ken. Again, we're all in 3 different locations. I'm in Willmington, North Carolina. Ken is at his home. Yes.
Yep.
In
Sandmerton, New Hampshire.
And Chuck, you are in
Tilton, I think.
The edge of the bed. You're at the edge of the
the house.
where that line is between Tilton and Franklin. Awesome. So
what are you drinking? Bob, what are you drinking?
I am drinking. Oh, I forget the name of it. New Anthem Brewery. They've been around about 9 years here in Willmington, and Willmington is a yet another beer mecca. There's 40 breweries within 5 or 10 miles of here. Wow. They're all over. I mean, you can't walk down the street without tripping over a brewery, and they're good. We've been to three of them so far. Only in there 2 days, and we're slacking. I know. And
I know. I was going to say, is that the last 4 hours?
We've been to 3 of them. They've been great. I haven't been disappointed yet. Really great atmosphere, great vibe, and that's what I find actually about the whole town of Willmington. If you haven't been to Willmington, I think you should plan to make this a stop. It's such a cool place. It's got a great vibe.
Of course it does, Bob, because everybody is drinking beer all day long, every day, because everywhere.
I'm sure that helps. But not only that, as we've gone up the coast, I've noticed there's a number of places we've been to that are really touristy. Like we went to Charleston, South Carolina, tourist
Yeah.
mecca.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You've been there, Ken?
Disneyland. Yeah.
It's like Disneyland. Yeah, no, there were some high points there for sure. I'm glad we went, but boy, it's nothing like here. And this is every place I've been. I feel like the locals come here. This isn't. It's not tourist mecca. It's just a place where cool people live, and they set up a nice city that's it's just enjoyable. It's really easy, and I'm having a great time. And I think, interestingly, I just toured the the USS North, or the USS Carolina, which is a battleship that fought almost every major battle, if not every major battle in the Pacific in World War II. And it was decommissioned in 47, and in 61, this Carolina brought it here to Willmington and made it into a museum. And Geraldine and I toured it. It was a really amazing experience. I've never quite experienced an experience like that. It was really thorough. And interestingly enough, that ship coming here is what they accredit really the revival of Willmington, because it became such an attraction for people to want to come and see. It brought people from all over the world to come and tour this amazing vessel, and it really helped to revive the city.
So, so some of the beers and breweries, their names are based on the Carolina, or that sort of thing.
I haven't discovered that yet, but I've only been to 3.
Oh, you got some research to do.
I'm quite certain that if I spend enough time here drinking beer, I'll discover lots of related stories to the North Carolina. And I'm also wondering if my grandfather was stationed on a ship in the Pacific during the final days of the war. He was in the Marines, and wow. he was actually scheduled to be on one of the landing ships, or one of the ships that was going to be approaching Japan if the war didn't end when they dropped the bomb. My grandfather was going to land in Japan to fight the final days of the battle. And he's always, I remember that story, and I wondered, this ship was there. It was right off the coast of Japan during the final days of the war. And I wonder if he was actually on the ship. It would be really cool if I find that he was.
Yeah.
So that's where I am. Why don't I
so Chuck, there's a nice little segue from Bob talking about Japan there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We got 70 years later here or whatever to tell us about
interestingly,
current
Japan. So Japan is still pretty locked down, right? So we're allowed to leave the hotel to go exercise. So I went for a 6-mile walk as my exercise, and I went down to a park called the Merike Gardens, which is down on Tokyo Bay. And the gardens were built there originally by one of the early dynasties that ruled Japan. And then it got handed down from shogun to shogun to shogun. And it's just this really elaborate, almost an island fortress. And all of the really neat buildings that were built there in the
hold on 1 second, Chuck. Bob, while Chuck is speaking, would you mind muting for your background noise?
Oh, is it really loud?
Yeah, I can hear that.
When someone else is talking, when you're speaking, Bob, the background noise isn't noticeable, but when you're not, it comes through pretty loud.
Yeah, it is kind of loud.
Great.
So anyway, and the buildings of the most recent buildings there were all destroyed by bombers from the U.S. bombing of Tokyo in World War II. I'm like, oh man, why'd they bomb this? But what did they didn't know what they were bombing. So
we didn't start it, right?
No, I know, and I have to say that it was really a really great cultural experience to go so far away and go to such a culturally isolated place. I travel a lot. I've never been to a city that was so clean, where the people are so polite, and everything was so structured and organized.
What about, were you able to speak English pretty easily there with and get directions, interact with people, or do they frown on you and expect you to speak their language?
The Japanese people are so polite that they wouldn't say anything condescending in front of you. I don't know what they would say, but many things were not in English, right? You just sort of had to assume that things work there the way they do everywhere else. But they have cell phone service and Google Translate and all that sort of stuff. So I felt like a duck out of water. I mean,
so
taller than all the people there, and
yeah.
I don't speak any Japanese, and I'm used to being a little bit more culturally attuned to the environment that I'm in, going to Europe, and I just
So it was. I mean, I've always wanted to go to the Far East because I've never been there either, and I've always imagined it to be quite different than any places I've been in South America or South Africa, or Europe. Those so far seem to be not that far different. Of course, culturally distinct and unique. Right. But when we went to South Africa, it was a foreign place with things that we don't see around here whatsoever. But it sounds like Japan is a much different sort of place. And when my son Max went to Thailand, same thing. It really seemed a completely different sort of role and rhythm and format. What's the food and beverage situation there? Did you get to meet a master sake maker and drink some sake?
Yeah. So I have to say that this trip for me was a lot to do with training, and this was my final training period, and my flight back was a check ride, of which there's a lot to know and a lot to be proficient with, and so I didn't really dig into going on vacation and doing stuff there. And then secondly, the crew members that I was with weren't really that interested in going out and spending money. Things aren't really that expensive, but if you're going for big sushi or something like that, it's pretty expensive. And I couldn't find anybody that was really that interested in it. So
I'll go next time.
Yeah, no, I'm all right. Okay, well,
Bob and I'll join you.
Get your pilot ratings and whatnot.
Just saying.
I'll go back and have more of an opportunity to dig into that. And also, we were kind of limited on where we could go out to eat. Right, we were supposed to be quarantined in the hotel, so to go out anywhere was a little bit outside of the our leash that we were supposed to be under.
So they're staying locked down for COVID. Are they just sort of postponing almost the inevitable of people getting?
Well, they're not locked down so much as I'm a foreigner and I'm locked down because I'd have to be there for 2 weeks before I would have the free reign to go out into the world. And of course, we're only there for 48 hours. So that was really the issue with that. But there's a lot that's closed. There's no tourism, right? The whole Disney World in Tokyo is closed, and there's hardly anybody at the airport. Nobody very few people on the street. Very, very few foreigners are there because it's so hard to go there and be a foreigner. Was
your plane full of Japanese people?
It was all Japanese people both ways. Yeah, and we were only about half full either way.
Interesting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Chuck, the big news here, though, that the reason you were in Japan, and you touched on it, is your final check ride. This is exciting news. You're now officially a
He's certified
777 certified pilot, which means
I'm certified.
Well, it sadly means you have to.
He's certified, all right.
Right.
So yeah, fill us in a little bit about what that means for you. That's big news. That's exciting.
Well, I switched airplanes largely because I wanted to go to places like Japan, things that are a little bit further away, 12, 14, 16-hour flights away from New York. And the 777 is the airplane that can do those missions. Whereas how
many millions of pounds can fly off the runway on a 777?
777,000.
777,000. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah. And they burn 2,000 pounds of fuel
to get to the
before
runway
takeoff so that they can actually take off.
Yeah.
Right? Something like that.
Some things, right? But
well,
yeah,
that's good. Just real quick. The USS Carolina could go 36 feet on a gallon of fuel.
36 feet. Yeah.
If it's really windy, it can probably go farther.
Yeah, we carry 5,000 gallons of gas in the 777.
The Carolina carries 2 million gallons.
What? 2 million gallons?
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic.
Wow.
So Chuck, your 777 is going to you're now officially at work, right? They get next time they get a trip, they're going to put you in.
Yeah. So right, I'm on reserve. Yeah, I'm type-rated in the Boeing 777 now. That's all done deal.
You're still on reserve. So
congratulations, Chuck.
Yeah, it was right. No, it was good. I actually had to apply myself and work hard and be disciplined, which is something
I know you couldn't drink sake all night. Next time.
Yeah. No, I think that as a matter of Tokyo goes, I would really like to go to Japan for like what Bob's doing and go for 2 weeks or a month and just go out and explore, get out of the cities and into the country and get up. There's 5 islands in Japan, and they're all have personalities and more rural beauty that you can't really appreciate in a large sprawling urban city. So yeah, I think Japan has a lot to offer.
Bob, I think we're going to need to get in on some companion tickets.
Buddy passes. I see some buddy passes.
Buddy passes when he's flying to Tokyo.
Well, and we just started service from Newark back to Cape Town, and we have Johannesburg too. So yeah.
Well, we could change the policy to somewhere warm that makes sake.
There you go.
So Kittery in the summer?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, no, that'd be fun. I would definitely go back. And, the other place that I'm interested in going to would be to India. That's on the mission of this airplane. And then, of course, China as well. But, the global situation now is still dicey out there. I mean, flying to India is tough because we can't fly over Russian airspace, and flying to China is impossible because if you try to stay overnight there as an airline person, they basically put you in a hotel prison. So it's the fun factor is zero.
Wow.
Everything that's great about those places in Beijing and Hong Kong are draconian as a matter of funometer.
So that's really interesting because that's the opposite of our experience down here down south. We've been traveling over 1,500 miles of, I don't know, 10, 12 states in the last 2 weeks. And I think I've seen someone wearing a mask 5, 6 times. I mean, there's no reference to COVID in anywhere I've been for the last 2 weeks.
And what are the numbers like? Have you been looking at the data on it at all for there?
He's in the
I don't want to know.
Southeast there, Chuck. I think everybody's already had COVID down there.
Yeah, a couple of times. Apparently, we get over and over again.
I don't know. We've been very cautious in trying to stay in as much as possible open, aerated areas and trying to avoid crowds. I mean, it would really be a bummer if the two of us got COVID in the middle of this trip. It wouldn't help us or anybody else. So we've been trying to behave, but it is really interesting to see that it's in the U.S. COVID isn't in existence right now. Really.
And it's an odd place that we're in. I'm sick of COVID, literally. But going on this trip to Japan, we were all required to have a COVID test before we got in the cockpit to fly to Japan. And one of my coworkers who I flew with, I don't know, jeepers, 15 years ago out of Chicago when I was flying out of Chicago. guy, really just funny guy. He's a Top Gun Navy pilot and just super funny. We had just had a blast. And he was on this trip, and he showed up, and I said hi, and we laughed and reminisced. He went in to take his COVID test, and he came back positive, and he got pulled off the trip. We had to wait 3 hours for another pilot to show up from home to replace him. So we were late going to Japan, and he had no symptoms, right? Nothing, just
right.
Can't go.
Right.
It's such a strange time. You know, could have been anyone on the crew, because he had nothing. Right. I mean, so yeah, I don't know. I don't wish away time, but I really am looking forward to this thing being in the rearview mirror. It's just
if it is going to in fact be in the rearview mirror. I mean, this may go on for another 10 years of experience and testing and social distancing and concerning ourselves with it. It may be, kind of a new standard that we've got to deal with.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
so on another note,
good.
To move on from that topic.
Good. Let's move on.
There's all these great comments from some of our biggest fans, Priscilla and Matt, and who else was on the
I saw one from your mom, Bob, because I know she.
Yeah, my mom's watching.
Yeah.
But there's a buzz about people coming next Monday for a live show at the winery.
Oh, great!
Yeah, wouldn't it be great if all of our friends out there who join us every week?
Let's do
digitally,
that. Yeah, this
could
is
all come.
The core team. Have everybody come.
Yeah, we could do a show about everybody on our core team. Do you hear that, everybody out there? That's about you. So yeah, we should do this. I don't know if everybody
can show about the show. We can be Seinfeld.
A show about the show. Yeah,
it's a show about the show. We'll set up a bunch of mirrors and a bunch of reverb, and it'll be just a show about the show. Yeah. We'll pull a bunch of old wines out of the library.
Yeah,
and share them around with everybody.
I think that would be a lot of fun. So whoever can make it next Monday at 5:30, we'll all be together again. Do you think you'll be around, Chuck?
Yes, I do.
Excellent. And Ken, you should be around.
Oh yeah.
Good. So
awesome.
Possibly next Monday is our first
truly
live show with all of our best friends at the winery. I'm looking forward to that. I got to say, I've been on the road for a long time, and I miss the winery. I can't wait to get back. And
it gets
the pianist this Saturday was just mind-bogglingly talented. I mean, he had his 100,000 hours of piano playing. I mean, I was blown away again. What a great event Saturdays are.
Right.
We
have our first Thursday. We have our first Thursday music event coming up in a week and a half, right?
Really exciting. Yeah, the Thursday night listening room experience is booked out until September. So we have amazing artists coming from all over New England and beyond, playing every Thursday night at the winery. The show starts at 6. We have a pre-show from 6 to 7:30, and then the featured artist comes on at 7:30, and we'll play for an hour and a half. And it's going to be amazing. I can't wait. This on the 19th. That's the first day.
19th is the first day.
Wangari Ferrari, who Ken, I think you were with me. We saw her play at
the Purple Pit. She has an amazing voice.
She has an amazing voice. Yeah, I can't wait to see her live in our space, and her voice is going to ring in that space. It's really going to be nice. So tell your friends if you can make it to one of our performances. Thursday Night Live is going to be an amazing opportunity to see some really great musicians. I hope you can all come. So that's great, Chuck, to hear about your 777, and I can't wait to hear from all the adventures that you're going to be on now. I'm sorry though that you're going to actually have to go to work again, and we won't see you as much. But that will still be fun for you, I think, because you're going to
when you fly to Europe, when you go to Spain and Italy, you often bring back some interesting, enjoyable products. Same sort of opportunity coming back from Japan. I don't expect any fresh sushi, but a nice sake that you can't get here, that you can only
Gin.
get, and gin,
Yeah,
and scotch. And I hear they make fantastic scotch.
Yep.
Right.
No, true. I don't know much about.
We're not mentioning high ABV distilled spirits on this show, though. So these are code words for types of wine, right?
Yeah, I suppose they might be. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's all the same. As far as I know, I didn't happen to bring. I brought some soup back from Japan. And because there's a lot of stuff wasn't open, the grocery stores were quite a ways away from where our hotel is, and so I didn't have I haven't quite figured out Japan. I mean, I go to Spain and bring back some really great wines, and Paris there's a wine store right around the corner from their hotel.
You'll figure it out. You were only there for a couple of days, right? First time.
Yeah, right. So it was just a sort of a kind of get my baseline figured out for.
This is a problem.
Oh, that is an empty problem. Yeah, it's an empty problem. So yeah.
So we haven't. I told you what I'm drinking. What are you guys drinking?
Well, I just finished a lovely.
Yeah, what were you drinking?
I just got my first shipment from Garage East.
Oh, great!
And had some. Great. Oh, that's an 18 Lake House Red. Mm-hmm. All right, Chuck. So I got this first shipment, and tonight Maya made a wonderful lobster arugula avocado salad. So I opened up a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc to have with that.
Wow.
We sat out on the porch. Wow. We sat out on the porch, Bob. We've got all our new glass windows in the porch.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's about 80. Great. It's about 80 degrees out there in the afternoon sun.
Oh,
and, it's great.
Maybe we need to do a show from the new porch.
Oh, sure.
So that's great. Hey, you mentioned Garage East. We should put a plug in for that. If you guys, anybody out there looking for a really interesting opportunity to learn about interesting wines, the three of us have been hooked up to this company called Garage East, garageeast.com in Seattle, Washington, and it's a great way to find some really fun and interesting wines. I have 5 cases that had just been delivered to my mother's house.
Hey, Chuck, we know where we need to be. We're going to Bob's. He's got 5 cases.
I'll be by tomorrow to help with.
In fact, Chuck, I think we should go to Meredith tomorrow before Bob gets here. He can't possibly get there from North Carolina.
She's instructed to protect those cases.
Oh, with her life. I know. Yeah, Mary's a big match for Chuck and I. Yeah, I know.
Some nice music. And
you distract her. I'll grab the cases.
No.
You got 2 cases that showed up, Bob. There was some issue with FedEx.
Yeah, it's funny how that happened.
So Ken, tell us a little. What's barrels. That?
Beer barrels.
What's that?
At the Hermit Woods.
What's that?
What?
You have beer barrels at Hermit Woods now?
No,
yes.
Actually, they're whiskey barrels that had beer in them. So it's complicated, but very exciting, very foreign, very new. This is not quite like going to Japan, but for me, it was an extremely special event. About a month and a half ago, Dan Kiesel, the head winemaker for Stoneface, the head brewer for Stoneface Brewery, came into Hermit Woods. I think he has family in the area, and Bob met him and spoke with him, and he got to try some of the wines, and he got very excited about what we were doing on the wine front, and particularly interested in our barrels, because Stoneface cranks out superlative New England IPAs. That's what they're known for. They came into existence a mere 9 years ago and have really sort of shaped the New Hampshire, New England IPA venue. They do an outstanding job. But on the side, they explore all sorts of fascinating, unique beer styles, including some barrel-aged sours and some barrel-aged imperial high-gravity beers. So Dan is always looking for high-quality wine barrels to age his dark sours in. And he has trouble sourcing those barrels because you want a fresh barrel, something where the wine has been taken out of the barrel and then quickly transported to the brewery so that it can be filled with beer. And then the wild microbes that go into crafting a sour beer start taking their effect. So he and I spoke, and he came over, and we spent, 6 hours sampling barrels one day, and some beers that he had brought along. The first time I really had and enjoyed a sour beer was a dark sour that he brought aged in what were previously holding Syrah red wine. And it was just a delightful product. It's really much more wine-like than a beer. And I think the dark character of the malt bill that he used in his beer serves as a good foundation for a sour beer. Other sours I've had have been a little too bizarre, a little too tangy, a little too thin, and these were just fantastic. Anyway, we sampled a bunch of barrels, and he chose 2 barrels that had our elderberry wine in them. So I make a straight elderberry wine that ultimately gets blended with some blueberry and or goes in part into Lake House Red and Hermitage. And so he got to taste a couple of those barrels and said, boy, Ken, I would love to have those barrels. And then he sampled some Red Scare barrels from, I'm sure Matt would be jealous here. Matt, he didn't take the barrel full of wine. He just took the empty barrel. But he sampled some Red Scare barrels and fell in love with those. So Noah and I, one morning, coordinated with Dan, and we pushed the wine out of the barrels, didn't rinse the barrels, didn't clean them, put a bung in them, put them in the back of Escargot, our truck, and drove them to Stoneface and had a fantastic time there. We did, within 15 minutes, Dan handed us a beer right off the canning line, which was great. We saw their whole procedure.
I'm really sorry I missed that trip.
I know they were asking for you, Bob. He was quite shocked that you weren't there. Maybe they were happy they didn't lose as much beer. If you were there, you would have consumed a few. But anyway, so we brought those barrels over, and he was planning to rack in some beer that's going to be turned into these dark sours in these 2 barrels. While we were there, he showed us a couple barrels that did not have sour beer in them. Sour beers are created by a whole host of microorganisms, none of which I want to have in our winery. So he has a couple of barrels that were filled with, one was an imperial stout, about an 11% ABV stout. The other was a barley wine at about 10.5% alcohol. And these 2 beers had been sitting in these whiskey barrels from Tennessee for the last year or so. And we sampled them. And when you sample these whiskey barrels, the way Dan has set it up, especially for his sour process, there's a nail hole in the side of the barrel on the head with a stainless steel nail stuck in it. And so he brings a cup over and a pair of pliers, and he pulls the nail out, and out comes this stream of beer into a cup, and then he shoves the nail back in. And so in a sour beer, when the sour complex of microorganisms are doing their thing, they're floating on the top surface in the beer. And you don't want to go through the bunghole and stick a straw in to sample, because you would puncture that pedicule, that layer that protects the beer from oxidation. So they use these nail holes on the side of it. I sent a picture to Bob. He's like, oh, we don't want those barrels. Like that one leaks. That was hilarious. Anyway, we sampled the beers, which were fantastic, and he explained how they made this imperial stout. They did a high gravity beer, so they have a 15 barrel system, so they can produce 15 barrels of beer, and they stuffed as much grain as they could into their mash tun, and that gave them about 10 barrels of beer. And then they boiled it for 22 hours straight to evaporate off as much water as possible to drive the sugar content up. And then they pitched yeast and fermented it. You know, the owner, Pete, was there just shaking his head about the expense of making this beer. Their New England IPA is what pays the bills, but these side things are a lot of fun. Anyway,
did you get to have some of that beer? Or is it
oh
not out
yeah,
yet?
oh yeah, it was fantastic. It's not out in barrels or in bottles yet.
Not to the public yet.
Not to the public, but we were sampling there. And then what we did is we brought a bottle of Petite Blue Reserve and a bottle of Red Scare. And after we sipped the beer with just a little bit of residue in the glass, we poured in some Petite Blue and sampled that as a way of testing whether or not putting our wine into that barrel might modify it in a positive way. And it was fantastic. With the barley wine, the Red Scare seemed to really benefit from that. And with the Imperial Stout, the Petite Blue Reserve seemed to really benefit from it. So we ended up deciding to take 4 of his barrels. So we brought him 4 barrels, and we took 4 of his barrels. While we were there, he hooked up his Bulldog and his gas, and he pushed that beer out into a container and took those barrels, sprayed them down with all sorts of acid to kill every microbe that was on them. And we put them into the back of escargot and brought them to the winery that afternoon. And then we pushed Petite Blue Reserve into 2 of the barrels and Red Scare into 2 of the barrels. And so in our cellar right now, we have 4 whiskey barrels filled with Petite Blue Reserve and with Red Scare. And uniquely, this is a really interesting component to all this. 2 of the barrels were used for Tennessee rye whiskey. And instead of being made out of white oak, they're made out of sugar maple. And sugar maple, I assume they cut it, they fashioned the staves, they put it together in the barrel, and they charred it on the inside. But there's so much sap in these staves that in our winery and at Stoneface Brewery, there's crystallized maple sugar leaking out, bubbling out slowly out of little spots around the barrel. So I can go in now on any day and swipe a little bit of maple sugar out of the barrel. I can't wait to try it. I just reached out to Dan yesterday about coming over because Noah and I plan to sample. Maybe later this week, guys. Oh no, let's do this next Monday night. I'm gonna pull
there's a whole buzz. There's a number of people may be arriving for a live show Monday, so I think that'd be a great time to do it.
So Monday night, what I'll do is I'll pull a sample of Red Scare in a wine barrel and Red Scare out of the Tennessee whiskey sugar maple barrel and do the same with Deep Blue Reserve.
And the sugar, what has it been, about a month now since they've been?
It's been about a month, and we'll all see together if there's a difference between them. Oh, that'll be fun. That'll be great, right?
Audience participation.
And audience participation.
Nice. Like it.
So that's been rocking my world.
So
I went to Japan and back, Chuck.
Yeah. Well, you also had a visit from the winemaker for Bluette, right?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So Bluette, if you haven't heard of Bluette, you haven't had your ear to the ground because Bluette's got quite a buzz lately. But this guy Michael Therrien out of Napa, he's a winemaker in Napa, but he's originally from Maine, and he hooked up with a buddy in Maine, and they came up with this idea maybe 8 years ago to make a champagne out of blueberries, and they created this product called Bluette, and it's become quite well known in Maine and beyond, and it's becoming more and more popular. There's several different variations on it. There's a Bluette that's a sort of method champenois made with the wild blueberries, and there's a lower, like more of a session type sparkling, or it's a Charlotte method, I think is what it is.
That's right.
This little, again, lower alcohol, but sparkling blueberry product. Anyway, it's been interesting. We've been connected with Michael. Ken actually went to a dinner in New York to promote the Wild Blueberry Association in New York City, and got to pour Bluette alongside a Petit Blue in a dinner, a wine dinner in downtown Manhattan, which sounded like a really cool experience. I wish I could have been there. And so anyway, we've stayed in touch with Michael. We visited Michael at his winery in Napa and shared some of our wines with him. And last month, Ken got a chance at EWE, Eastern Winery Exposition, to share our wine alongside Bluette at a conference in the EWE conference at their symposium, where Ken and the winemaker from Bluette was a panel member on this panel, and so we got to know the partner. Not we've met Carrion before, but we hadn't met his partner. So anyway, that turned into an opportunity for this gentleman to come and visit Ken at the winery last week. So I'm dying to hear about how all that went.
It was great. So Michael Terrian has a colleague who helped him develop Bluette a decade or so ago in Maine, and they both live out in Napa. And they fly in, they make the wine, they fly back to Napa, they deal with stuff there, they fly back, they would rack it, they would fly back to Napa, and it got to be ridiculous because they were scaling Bluette. Like you said, they started off with their traditional champagne version of their blueberry wine, and then they've expanded to a Charmat method where they make the wine and then force carbonate it in a high pressure tank. And now they've started to can that as well. And that's their fastest moving product. 2 years ago, they did 1,000 cases. Last year, they did 2,000 cases, and they did 4,000 cases this last year. So start off, they've just been doubling every year.
It's 4,000 cases just of the cans, or of their
just
total
of the cans,
production?
just of the cans. So Michael and his partner hired Ed Lutkins as their head winemaker, and he lives in their facility where they make the wine, and he has a wine assistant now because they're pushing out so much wine that it's a large scale. They harvested, I think he said, 30,000 pounds of wild blueberries, and their approach is fascinating. So both Ed and his assistant Davis showed up at the winery last Thursday, and we spent about 4 hours together sampling wines and talking about winemaking all over the place. And it was a great time. Ed's a super guy. Davis is a super guy. And they're focused on just these basically one product in 3 different forms. And that's it. That's their total focus. They're growing rapidly. They're trying to figure out how to deal with the growth and how to make consistent product. That's been Ed shared one of his biggest challenges has been that they distribute their Bluette across the country. And I see your comment there, Matt, that you lack Bluette. You need to try Bluette. I would highly recommend the full traditional method version of the Bluette. I think that's where they really strike a nice product. But try them all. You may be able to get the cans and see what's there. Bob, Chuck, we have a couple of cans and bottles sitting at the winery for us to try next time. We had a great time. We sampled through all sorts of different wines. He was really blown away, as Michael was in Napa when we brought him a bottle of Petit Blue Reserve. And philosophically, they have a different approach. They go directly to the fields and they harvest the berries directly, sun-ripened berries, and they bring those back, sort them out, and immediately start to press them. So there's no fermentation with the skins. So they press the blueberries and get the juice. They let the juice settle. So they're like making a white wine. And then they ferment that juice. They don't add any sugars. They do inoculate with a champagne type of yeast, EC1118. They struggle with acetobacter. So when they're harvesting their berries, it's 80 degrees in the fields in Maine, and they're putting them into plastic bins, trying to bring them to their facility, and it starts to turn to vinegar in transit. So the berries get crushed and they start to turn to vinegar, and they don't want to use any sulfur in their process. So they're a natural winemaking collective and focused, and they have a real challenge with that. And I've made some suggestions to Ed. I'll see if he tries to follow through with it. But they harvest over a period of about 2 weeks. So I suggested that after the first batch they do in their whatever way they do it to get it going, they take some of that wine that's actively fermenting to the field and spray the bin as they harvest, because the active yeast will eliminate all the acetobacter. They won't have to worry about it. And it's sort of like a reverse Solera here, that you're working with the microbes right initially. And he's scratching his head, and Davis is like, I don't know, this seems really unconventional, but it might work. So I'm hoping actually to go up. They harvest the first 2 weeks of August, which is about the same time I harvest rose hips. But I'm hoping to go up there and bring a little 20-gallon bucket and
motorcycles,
berries, and play around with the blueberries myself.
Another motorcycle trip to Maine, I think.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think it's a good plan.
Yeah, no, I love that. I remember when we went to Merrill Farms and we talked to Steve about his terroir. Remember that whole conversation?
Oh, I had that conversation, Chuck, with
You
Ed.
did, yeah.
And Ed's going to put me in contact with a woman who basically is the guru of wild blueberries in Maine. I told him about my remote sensing technology that I use and how I'd like to apply that. And he was very excited to hear that, because he had one spot where there's a big collection of albino wild blueberries.
Yeah.
And he wants to separate those and make wine out of them. Unfortunately, they get harvested, and then when they bring them in for cleaning, they all get plucked out because they look underripe.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's bizarre. Bob,
but we started talking about all sorts of things.
Yeah, how many? I mean, so the low bush Maine blueberry evolved in this region post glaciation, right? So these are indigenous fruit plants that have a biodiversity that's enormous. There's how many different species in an acre of blueberries? It's
basically every meter, every 3 or 4 feet, there's a new plant, a new subspecies of blueberry, and they grow in these like circular masses that intertwine across these barrens, across these fields. And we harvest them all as wild blueberries, but some are dark purple, some are bluer, some are whiter. And it's their way of surviving the complicated microenvironment that they live in, which researchers think is why they're so healthy for us as antioxidants.
Right. Yeah, they got to survive.
This is exciting. I think it's great that you connected with Bluette. They're doing some interesting things, and you're doing some really interesting things, and I think we could learn a lot from each other. So that was a great opportunity to visit Merrill a few years ago, and we learned about the original blueberry harvest. But it'd be really fun to connect with the folks from Bluette at Merrill's, or another blueberry farm. I attended a conference of the Blueberry Association, and it's really important for the Blueberry Association to help people get to know more about the wild blueberry, because it's a challenge for the growers and the pickers in that area to survive because of the uniqueness of that area. It's just Maine and New Brunswick, and they're competing with blueberry farmers from all over the world. And so anyway, that would be cool to be able to go up to Maine on motorcycles.
Yeah,
in the beginning of August.
Again, Ed and Davis and I really hit it off. It was a great melding of winemaking minds. You know, it's fascinating. Ed's previous job, he was a coopersmith making barrels
in Maine.
And so I took him downstairs. He was like you, Chuck. He's talking Latin to me about different wood types while we're in the barrel room. And I showed him the sugar maple with the stuff coming out, and he's like, that can't work. That can't be a barrel. That's not holding water. How's that holding liquid? That doesn't work.
You know, it's interesting. Matt asked the question, can we have a New England Consumer Wine Expo? And it's interesting because it was just a few years ago that we were working with Richard to try and actually do just that, to try and raise the bar on New England wines and create a closer association to food and wine, and actually put on an expo with New England wineries, and that would obviously include places like Bluette, and there are other great wineries around New England that are doing some really fun and unique things. And it is still my dream.
It's there.
Someday. It's there. It's in the
swirling around.
That would be great, wouldn't it? If we could, we could really pull together some of the best winemakers in New England, and help people really understand that there are more ways to skin a cat in this part of the world. That wine doesn't have to be New England wine made from fruit doesn't have to be sweet. That it can be aged. That it should have a vintage. That it can be laid down in your cellar for many years and actually improve. All of these things that we've been talking about for years, and there are only a handful of winemakers in our world that actually understand this, and it would be great to pull all those together and put a conference on. So Matt, you hold on. We will make that happen. I promise.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it was just an awesome opportunity. We talked about all sorts of different aspects of making wine, and you know, it's not set in stone at all. Remember when we were first getting into this, guys, 15 years ago, and sort of figured, well, you buy grapes and you crush them up and you ferment it, and then you squeeze it off and put it in a barrel, and you get wine, and that's it. That's the way it's always been done. It's always the same thing. It's no big deal. You got to get good quality grapes. That's it. And it's not like that at all. Everybody's trying something new and different and making fascinating new products. I spent quite a bit of time talking to Ed and Davis about Deep Blue Reserve and how oxidation with blueberries is a magical realm. And I talked about Clark Smith and micro ox, and there's a whole realm. I mean, I need to make a micro ox machine like the veterinarian there in South Africa, some crazy contraption, because this new Northern Berry Red that got oxidized, I took them down and had them try that. I had them try the two, and they're just like, what is this? What's going on here? It's fascinating. This is just opening up. It's just starting to crack open. It's going to be tremendous.
You know, part of the reason that I'm on this trip south was because for years I've heard about, and we've all talked to different people at EWE, from winemakers from Virginia and North Carolina and South Carolina and Georgia. And it's a big wine region down here, and I hadn't experienced it yet. So one of my interest in traveling south was to discover some of the wine that's happening down here. And it's been really fascinating. sort of different.
What are some of the highlights? Tell us some of the highlights. The grapes, the places, what they're doing.
Interestingly, some of the highlights came from places I wouldn't have expected. The areas of the South that I thought were going to be producing the more interesting wines. Maybe there are examples. I mean, I haven't hit that many wineries, so I'm sure there's some wineries out there that are doing some great stuff. But I was in these wineries in the southern part, the southwestern part of North Carolina, that I hadn't heard about at all. And we hit a couple wineries there that were making really amazing wines. They're at about 2,000 or 3,000 feet of elevation, so they're a little up high.
Yep.
So they got a little cooler air, not the intense heat of some of the other areas that we were at in the western parts or the eastern parts of the states, the southern states. But so the cooler air was helpful, and they were making some really interesting wines in this area between Asheville and that's where our former assistant winemaker was from Asheville, North Carolina. She made wine for Biltmore, and this was just an hour south of Biltmore with these really cool wineries and new winemakers really exploring new ideas, kind of like what you're doing, Ken. It's really a new region. There's I think maybe 8 or 10 wineries in this area, and 10 years ago there were 1 or 2, if that. So it's being discovered, and I was really excited to have an opportunity to try those wines. And then the other thing I learned is, one of the things that we value the most about Hermit Woods and about the wine tasting experience that we offer is that people get to come in and really learn about what we're doing and have an opportunity to belly up to the tasting bar and hear the stories that were created around the wines that you make and learn about wine in general. And that's a great experience, and it's sort of what I wanted to bring back to our winery from my experience in California, is this really great opportunity to learn about wine as you go wine tasting. And that's becoming a thing of the past. Most of the wineries that I visited didn't offer that. They'd hand you a collection of wines in little test tubes or in jars and a glass, and you just go and I mean, there wasn't even a write-up. I couldn't even read about the wines. It was just here's the wines, taste them, hope you enjoy them, and that's it. I was shocked because that's really what I think is the best part about the wine tasting experience, is the chance to come in and learn about the wines, learn about the winemaker, and hear the stories. And unfortunately, more and more, that seems like and I think COVID is part of it. COVID caused a lot of wineries to have to go to, as we did, to sort of a flight model where for a while there, all we offered was flights because we didn't want people bellying up to the bar and sharing COVID with each other. So, but as you guys know, the first thing we wanted to do last year, as soon as COVID started to wane, was bring that back, have that experience back. I missed it. I missed being behind the tasting bar and talking to all of our guests. But down south here, I didn't get that vibe. I felt like people were like, "Oh, this is cool. We don't have to spend as much money and time sharing our wine. We can just pour it for people in this other way, and they can go on this self-guided tour, and that'll work." Well, it doesn't work for me. I'm missing it, and I'm hoping to discover some more wineries as we head north. We're going to go into the Delaware area. There's a lot of wineries in Delaware, and I hope to visit John Talkington. We should be going right near where his meadery is. So, what's John's meadery?
That'd be John Talkington at Brimminghorn.
Brimminghorn, yes. We met John at the
that would be great, Bob. Yeah, that would be awesome.
I will. If I get down there, I'll hook you guys up. Maybe we can go live together and we can chat when we get there. But we should be there in a couple of days, and I hope to discover some more wineries that are doing what we're doing, sharing wine in a way that allows you to learn about it and enjoy the experience in the way that it should be enjoyed. So it's been really educational, and I've had a great opportunity to visit some great breweries. Breweries are on fire in this country. I'm so excited. I definitely look at this place behind me. It's just really, you can see we're in this. I don't know if you can tell. Look at that.
We should build a brewery.
Brewery.
Bob. We should build a brewery.
Look at that, Ken. The brewery is right in the middle of the tasting bar. Look at that. And then they're doing some barrels. They have a bunch of barrels. They're making some sours here. I mean, you heard me when I said there's 40 breweries in Willmington. In Ashland, there's 50 breweries, more breweries per capita than anywhere in the world. It's great. I mean, everywhere we stop for gas, I type in breweries near me, and there's a brewery right there, right down the road. So it's fun. If you like beer, this is a great place to travel for sure. But the same with wineries. There's more and more wineries popping up everywhere. It's hard to find an area that doesn't have at least one or two wineries. I've been avoiding them as of late because there's that. You guys have heard of that grape that's popular down here. I forget what it's called.
Scuppernong.
Something like, no, it's not that. It's something else. But it's really sweet.
Yeah. It's a big fat grape that Scuppernong is one of the local names for it. But
there's another name for it. I know it, but
yeah.
So anyway, we're at 6:33 here, so we probably should bring this to an end. Hey guys, it's been great. I haven't seen you in a couple of weeks. It's been great to be sharing some time with you.
I know. I can't wait till you get back. Chuck and I have got our mission out to drink some of your wine with you.
Yeah, well, we'll test it out. We'll find the good ones, and then we'll
well, Ken, wait a minute. Can you have a?
What's that? Looks like we froze up. Hello?
I can hear you.
Yeah, I hear you, Chuck, but Bob froze up for a moment.
Am I back?
Bob ran out of time.
Now you're back.
How many cases did you get from Gargis on your first ship?
Well, I only got one. All my other stuff, all my Chateauneuf de Pops are I don't know, pre-orders or whatever they call it. So I just have a couple of basics to get started with, and so we're gonna have to drink yours for a while, my friend.
All right. When I get back, we'll have a wine night. We'll share some wines from.
Does that include the Barolo? I think he's frozen.
lost Bob again.
He's off.
Yeah, he's got an internet thing going on, but he's at the foundation of this whole broadcast. So
right.
Yeah. So I tell you, am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Hello? All right. So this must be a signal that the show's got to be over soon. Yeah. We're losing signal. So thank you everybody for joining us today. This has been fun.
And next Monday, special sampling live, Facebook Live.
Absolutely. We'll see everybody who can make it Monday at 5:30. I'm going to put that promotion out as soon as I get off the air here. We're going to let everybody know. It's live at the winery. Anybody that can make it, we're going to join in the loft.
Yeah, we can fit 60 people in there, right?
60 people. So
that'll drain one of those Tennessee whiskey barrels, unfortunately.
No, I doubt it.
Yeah.
We can try, but I doubt it. So, thank you guys. We'll see you all in a few days.
Cheers, everybody.
All right.
Cheers.
Good night.
Ciao.
Good night.